Hello and welcome to the Final Frontiersman, a YouTube channel about all things Trek. I'm Bill and today I will be reviewing a new Star Trek game. This is Star Trek Lower Decks Buffer Time, the card game by Modiphius, the same people who make the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. So let's take a look at this small game by jumping into the, small window. Here we go. Look at the box. The box, it is a very nice box. It has a magnetic clasp on it. I love when games do that. I have a few here. I am also, if you don't know, a massive board gamer. In the drought years when I couldn't play the role-playing games that I want to play, especially before STA, I was very heavily into some serious board gaming. I have a massive collection over there. This box, it's a very nice box. I like it. Those kind of things really get to me. But anyhow, it's a nice box. But what is Buffer Time? What is this card game? First of all, it's a cooperative game. It's between 2 to 6 players where you are all working together to either win as a team or lose as a team. Just like the cast and crew of Lower Decks, they are all working together. It's rated for ages 10 and older, and it says on the box it takes between 20 to 40 minutes to play, which I found to be accurate in my playthroughs of this game. First of all, before I jump into it any further, just a little disclaimer. I was sent a copy of this game for a review, which I am doing now, so it was provided to me by Modiphius. Thanks again, Sophie, if you're watching this. It was very kind of you. I was going to get the game eventually anyhow, so it's very, very considerate and very, very nice of them to send me a copy. So again, thank you very much, Modiphius. But anyhow, Buffer Time, it is called a push your luck game. That is the kind of genre of board game, card game that it belongs to. Push your luck game, and again, it's a cooperative game. It's where you are trying to earn points or get towards a certain goal, but you kind of, depending on game, you kind of set the pace of how you're doing it. Do you push your luck more to try to score points, but if you trigger whatever the negative effect might be, you lose all the points for the round and maybe some other negative consequences? Or do you stop early and just bank a little bit of points, but playing it safer, but maybe you're not going to get enough points by the end? That's the style game it is. There's a lot of games out there like it. It's pretty fun. There's a whole variety of ways of playing this genre, not always going to be just like how Buffer Time plays. It's a very interesting genre, and it does lend itself more towards a casual game, which I would say Buffer Time is by far a casual game. It's not going to be one of your hardcore gaming night kind of games. To me, this is kind of a filler game that you might use when you have a little bit of time, maybe even before Star Trek Adventures session or between a couple heavier games. You want to have something short, smaller, and fun to jump into. That's how I would categorize this, but let's get into it. First of all, the components in the box. There are 4 decks. The game is played using cards from 4 different decks. First are the assignment cards, and as I'm saying, you are a crew. You are all playing as the same team together, so as a group you are given an assignment in a round. This is what your supervising officers are telling you to do. It's not fun. You're a lower decks person. You want to go out and have fun, but this is the assignment you have to get done because it's your job. So those are the assignment cards. Next, you have the side project cards, which are not really side projects. It's kind of you and your friends slacking off while doing the actual assignment that you put on to try to get some fun squeezed into the time. So you have your time set up for work, but you're trying to fit in some leisure time inside that as well. That is Buffer Time from the TV series, the animated series, Lower Decks. That's exactly what it is, and that's what the basis of this game is. So you have your assignment, and then you have these side projects that you can play into the assignment or onto the assignment to try to squeeze in some fun and recreation before you complete this job that you have to do. The next set is the, it's called the Alpha Shift Ability Decks. These are cards of like event cards, special powers that you will be given at the beginning of the game that you could use to do something out of the ordinary and something pretty powerful. Most of them are pretty powerful. The utility of the card varies greatly depending on which card you have. Some are always useful, some are useful in specific circumstances, but these are special abilities which will be crucial in this game. And the last one are called the shift cards. These are basically the random amounts of work, the random amounts of effort you are putting towards the assignment that you're given, and then the side projects that you are tacking on as well. And this is where the push your luck element comes in, because not only are there values in this deck between 1 and 5, 5 being rare. I believe there's only one level 5 card in the deck of 28. But there are also 6 officer cards in there that range between level 1 and 3. And those are the negative cards. That's where the push your luck comes into play. So again, 4 decks, the assignment, that is the mission you have to do. The side projects, that are the fun things that you're tacking on. That's where your points come in. Your ability cards, alpha shift ability cards, that let you do some wild things to try to shift things in your favor. And oddly enough, I just said the word shift, but the shift cards themselves, which are the points, mostly random, that you will be drawing out with the risk of drawing a superior officer that if you draw too many, you end the round. And if you didn't accomplish your goal, you're kind of knocked out of that round. And I'll explain how those rules are in a second. Actually, this second. Might as well, right? So in this game, in Buffer Time, you get 5 assignment cards dealt randomly. You only get 1 per round. So it's basically a built-in timer for the game. You have 5 different rounds, 5 different assignments to do. Depending on the number of players, 2 to 6, you will have a different target number of leisure points you have to gain over the course of these 5 rounds in order to win the game. As soon as you reach that maximum or that target leisure points, then you are champions. But if you go through all 5 assignments and you can't reach that goal, you lose the game. And as I said, it's cooperative, so you win as a team or you lose as a team. So to start a round, you will draw 1 assignment, flip it over. That usually has, well, definitely it will have your target number of effort of work you have to put in, and sometimes has also some leisure points available to it as well. So if you complete it, you will gain those leisure points as well. Usually it's not a very strong number, not a very big number, and even if it is, just completing the mission, the assignment cards, is not going to be enough to win the game. That's where your side projects come in. At the beginning of every round, you have 2 side projects cards. If it's a later round and you've used side projects in previous rounds, you will draw up until you have 2. So when it's your turn, you could play a side project onto the assignment you have. What that does is give you more leisure points that you could earn if you complete your project, but it also increases the amount of work that you have to complete that assignment, because you're trying to squeeze in this leisure time by running off, doing these things, squeezing these things in. So it's kind of pushing you to the limit of how much you could get done before that assignment is due by your supervisors. So you'll have the assignment, you can add more time onto it to try to get more points, and that's where the shift cards come in. To start the round, you will have 1 shift card flipped over. That is the starting shift value. So you get a little bit from the beginning. Again, they range from 1 to 5, 5 being super rare. You're trying to earn the total number of all the work that is totaled on your assignment card and the side projects that you put up. But as I said, there are also some officers, superior officers in there, that if you flip them out of the shift deck, they don't, of course, add any points there. That's them coming around checking on you to make sure you're doing the work. They range from level 1 to level 3, level 3 being Captain Freeman. There are 3 level 1 officers. There are 2 level 2 officers, and Captain Freeman is level 3. If you ever have a total of 4 or more of those leveled officers, into your shift stack that you are building up to try to earn the points to complete your assignment. If it's 4 or more, you're caught. You didn't complete the assignment on time. They see you're goofing off, and you lose that round. So this is where the push your luck element comes in, because on your turn, you are either going to play a card randomly off the top of the shift deck and add the points that are there, or reveal an officer that's coming out, or you're going to play another side project that is going to make you have to do more work to complete the assignment. But if you do complete it, it adds more leisure points that you are going to gain and bank for the game to try to reach the total to win the game. So on your turn, you're flipping over these cards, you have very little control because it's all random. So if you flip over too many officer cards, you get 4 or higher points there on them, you're out. So it's super random, right? How do you control that? It's all luck of the draw, right? Not exactly. That is where the Alpha Shift ability cards come in, because the next type of action you could do when it's your turn is, instead of drawing a shift card, instead of playing another side project onto the stack, making it become more and more difficult to complete, you have the opportunity to play one of your ability cards. Now, at the beginning of the game, you are dealt 2 Alpha Shift abilities. And as I said, these are very powerful. Could be very, very powerful at any point, or it could be very situational with your power. And that's a lot of where the challenge and fun comes into the game. When do you use these special powers? When is the best time to use it to capitalize on it? Some of them, or I should say a good number of them, allow you to look at a certain number of cards in the shift stack, put ones you want on top, put the other ones on the bottom, or just reveal it so you have an idea what's coming up next, and so you and the other players could plan accordingly. So these cards are indispensable to winning the game. It's impossible. It would be nearly impossible to win the game without these abilities, because the shift deck is just so random. So these allow you a very small ability to control and try to mitigate the damage that is coming out. But again, it's a push your luck game, and luck is the key word here. Luck and randomness is key in most games like this. So even with these abilities, there's still a lot of reliance on luck, playing them at the right time, drawing the right cards, getting the right situation put up to make your round and then the whole game work to your advantage. In the beginning, as I said, you get dealt 2 cards. When you use them, they're gone. But the fourth action that you could do, the fourth and final action you could do on your turn, is if you have reached the target work that you need to complete of the basic assignment and all side projects that are stacked on top of it, if you meet that number or more, you can cash in that assignment. You could call it in, bank all the leisure points you gained. They are now safe for the most part. They are now safe and put away. The round is finished, but the player who does that also gets to draw a new Alpha Shift ability card. That's the one way to replenish it. And with only 5 rounds, you're only going to be replenishing 4 cards. So you really have to coordinate with the other players, and also hope that luck is on your side, that you're using it at a great time that's really going to benefit you. So those are the 4 actions that you have on your turn. And then once a round is done, you draw back up to make sure everybody has 2 side project cards with them. The next assignment is flipped over. The next starting shift value on top card of the deck is flipped over, because all the cards get shuffled back into there. And then you start round 2, 3, 4, and then round 5's the final round. If you reach the target set at the beginning of the game, you're the champion. But if you lose, everybody loses together. Now here's, do I want to talk about now or when I get into the points here? Okay, well, might as well, since I'm in the rules, might as well just mention it. So what happens if you draw 4 or more points of the officers in the shift stack while you're doing it? Your luck fails on you. So what exactly happens? Of course, you failed a round. You don't get any of the points that you were building up on the assignment and also on the side projects. Those are all shuffled back into their decks. The assignment's done. You're caught. You're out. But there's also one more negative thing that happens aside from that. From your banked set of leisure points, you will lose the highest value point that you have, the card with the highest value point. If it's multiple cards, you only lose one of them, but you will lose at least one of your highest value cards from getting caught, basically, and punished. But you only have 4 more rounds, 5 rounds total, to complete everything. So you gotta be really careful how hard you push your luck to make sure that you not only don't fail a round when you have a big set of leisure points built up, but also that you don't fail around to lose one of your big scored points in your victory window. So that's basically it. That's the game. It's just a fun game for a group of friends to sit around and just get into the mood of trying to sneak around, do side projects for fun, before your bosses catch you that you're not doing the job that you're supposed to be doing. You're using the extra time to do the things you want. That's the gist of Lower Decks Buffer Time. So some final thoughts and the things I like and things that I have a little bit of a critique on. So let me jump back into the big window. So here I am again. Let me flip over. First of all, the things that I really like about this game, it is a good filler game. Like I said, if you're playing, if you have a long gaming session, this is a great game to, between heavy games, to jump in, spend 20-30 minutes about, play with friends, have some laughs, and just a lot of groans of like, oh, why didn't you bank it at the time? You shouldn't have played that card. It's not a serious game, and Lower Decks isn't a serious series, so it doesn't really matter if you win or lose. It's more just how far can you push it, how far can you push your luck. So I thought it was fun in that aspect. Plus it's Lower Decks. Like I said, you got the Lower Decks theme, you got the characters, you got a lot of things from the show. This game is designed right on the box, you can see it. It is for fans of Lower Decks. It's fans of Star Trek. It's fans of Lower Decks in particular. That is who this game is for. So if you like Lower Decks, if you like the characters, and you just want some mindless fun and some risk versus reward, exciting little filler game, this is not a bad choice. I had a good time with this. The Alpha shift abilities, like I said in how to play, choosing when to use your cards, because you only have those 2 unless you're one of the ones banking the assignment. Choosing when to use it, coordinating with other players, like I could do this if you get the turn to me safely, or if I do this, you have to do that. Just the different cards that are available, and just knowing they are a limited resource, but you can't win the game without them. They are so crucial, so necessary. They can remove officers from the shift stack to try buy you more time. They could let you look at the deck to stack it in your favor. They could add massive amounts of work to your stack to make you get closer to the end, as well as a lot of other little abilities thrown in there. They were fun. They were great. Like I said, the game doesn't really work without them, and I'm going to get to that in a point. The 20 to 40 minutes time that's on the box, I believe that's accurate. I don't think any game actually hit 40 minutes, but the smaller player counts were between 20 and 30 minutes, and the larger counts were around 30 minutes for me. 6 players, that's a maximum. And again, there's a lot of randomness in the game. It's a push your luck game. This entire thing is based on randomness. So the way one game is going to turn out is going to be entirely different from the other, just because of how the cards are shuffled, what comes out. You might just get swamped and destroyed immediately. And there's nothing you could do about that because of a bad shuffle. But I will say, when I played the 6-player game compared to the other player counts, that was a blast. Because you have so many Alpha Shift ability cards out there. You have 12 cards out there. So there's a lot on the table that could be triggered and that you get to play around with. And so there's a lot more decisions. It's a lot more tactical, trying to figure out what you want to do. 6 players was really fun for me in this game, and I believe in the playtest I did of all player counts, definitely I had the most fun at the 6-player mark, which I didn't expect, but it definitely was, because just how much interplay there was between coordinating when and who was going to do different abilities, and also like, we're doing good, let's slam another side project on there, I think we could do this, and the players after like, oh dear lord, don't let me draw Captain Freeman and ruin this for everyone. So yeah, 6 players was exciting. Now to some points that I don't know if I would call them negative points, although maybe a couple are valid complaints, valid gripes about it. But things that I didn't care for as much. As I said, 6 players was a blast. 2 players was a nightmare for me. The game does play at 2 players, but as I said, the alpha shift ability cards are crucial to winning the game. And even though you only need a smaller total to win as 2 players, you only have 4 alpha shift ability cards out there. And if you get a bad draw of only situational ones and you're not in that situation, they're pretty much useless to you at the time. And then, as I said, if you lose a round, that's a huge chunk gone. And now you have very little time to make up for it. And if you lose after you play some alpha shift ability cards, you're not going to get them back. And in the next round, you have even less options to save yourself, to help yourself. And then that leads into, especially in this part, probably my biggest gripe. Maybe my biggest gripe, I don't know. But when you losing a whole round is bad, because you only have 5 rounds for the most part. You only have 5 rounds, so losing one really hampers you from being able to reach the goals, because it's hard to get to the goals. But what seems a little too punishing is then you lose your highest value scored leisure point card in the victory display. And like, it's already punishing enough to lose a round and all the stuff you devoted to it, especially alpha shift abilities. That's already punishing enough. To then lose another point, but not just another point, a huge point that you may have banked already, that just seems overly punishing. And maybe I need to play the game a lot more. I've only played it maybe close to a dozen times. Maybe if I played it a lot more, I would see where the balance is, but it just felt too punishing. It might be something that you would want to house rule in your games, especially a 2-player game. Another thing might be replenishing alpha shift ability cards in the 2-player game as well. Maybe it even says that in the rulebook. I don't believe so. I may have overlooked it. I mean, with how much I screw up rules from time to time, I wouldn't doubt it. But if that's not in the rule book, which I don't remember, the rule pamphlet, it's very thin, it might be something you want to do if you're only playing a 2-3 player count, because that was just brutal, losing those extra points. It's also, again, maybe negative for some people. It's a push your luck game, so it's all about randomness, it's all about luck. I know a lot of people don't care for that, but that's the style of game, that's what it is. Like, you can't get mad at Yahtzee for being random. That's what this game is. I know there are other more thematic, more heavier mechanic push your luck games that have other ways of mitigating it. That's not what this game is. This is a light filler game, so don't expect that. But if you just want some wild fun of, are we going to win or are we going to screw up like the characters in the show, that's what it's for. So to me, it's not a complaint, it's not a bad thing. It's I mean, it's right there on the package. It's a push your luck game. You know what you're getting into. And the last thing, to me, I don't find this as a problem, but I know I've heard other people online here. I read other people online mention this as something that they didn't like about it, or they don't like about it. I don't even know if they played it, but just hearing about it. So I'll bring it up here. Basically, and it's fair to say, this game, the Lower Decks theme, is basically just a painted on theme to mechanics. The mechanics are not inherently Star Trek. They are not inherently Lower Decks, even though the whole risk versus reward, trying to see how much you could do without getting caught by your superiors, that is purely Lower Decks. I mean, the game itself mechanically is not inherently built to be a Star Trek game, a Lower Decks game. You could reskin this under a number of different things. You would have the exact same game, but a completely different theme on top of it. So a lot of people, or maybe not a lot of people, a few people I read, they had gripes about that. To me, that's not a problem. A lot of games are rethemed, reskins of other things. Another one that I've been going to review for 2 years, and I still haven't. It's on the shelf. I should do it now that I mentioned it. Now that I'm about to mention it, I am going to review it soon-ish, maybe, possibly. Star Trek Catan. Star Trek Catan, again, the board game Settlers of Catan. That is a classic, well-known board game that has a ton of skins, a ton of themed versions of it, which, again, it doesn't really change anything. It just puts a theme on top of a game. Star Trek Catan is probably my favorite version of Catan. I don't want to play the original anymore. The Star Trek one, it adds a small new element onto it, but the mechanics are not specifically Star Trek. But it's a lot more fun for me to have that theme on it. As I say, it does add something new as well, but even what it adds new doesn't necessarily make it more Star Trek. It just gives it a new aspect. But the theme, I like Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek fan. I like Lower Decks. I'm a Lower Decks fan. So yeah, I like the theme of this game. I don't care that it's not tied, it's not married to the mechanics. It still does what it's supposed to do, but some people don't like that, so I should bring it up in case you are one of them. But overall, I would say if you are a Lower Decks fan, and that's who this is marketed for, I can't really see a lot of people who don't know about Lower Decks, don't know about Star Trek, just jumping in and grabbing this without knowing what it is. But I think if you introduce this to some friends who are into casual gaming or family members, they'll have fun with it. It's a fun game. It's a filler game. It's a casual game. And you have that wild, fun aspect of just seeing how far you can push to try and get the points. As I said, there are a couple brutal moments in there that I think may be too punishing, especially at the lower player count. I thought 4 was still a solid game. When I played a couple rounds with 4 players, I thought that was still solid. My one game at 5 players was kind of so-so. We had some great rounds, and then we had one massive failure round that just completely demoralized us. But then the 6-player game with so many alpha shift abilities, that was where it's at. So if you have a group, Star Trek gamers, or just gamers, casual gamers who like these kind of thing, I recommend checking it out, just giving it a try. And if you're a Lower Decks fan, I think you're going to have fun with it. I did. I enjoyed it. Again, thanks Modiphius for sending it. That was very kind, so I'm happy that I like it too. So I actually will get a lot more use out of it too, instead of just looking at it with a sad puppy dog eyes. But anyhow, that's my review of Lower Decks Buffer Time, the card game. If you played it, let me know what you think. If you had any of the same thoughts I did, any of the same positives, negatives, or different ones, please share that in the comments below. It would be nice to hear what other groups, other players think of this game. And yes, sometime in the future, maybe Star Trek Catan is going to finally get reviewed here. I love it. But yeah, that's it. Thanks as always for watching. As I always say, stay safe out there, my friends. Live long and prosper. Peace and long life. See you next time.